In this video, I'm going to show you 6 Spider-Man mysteries almost nobody knows about. And every single one of them is true. A hero that was almost never published. A famous death that Marvel quietly admitted was the hero's own fault. And a version of Spider-Man so strange, it permanently changed a completely different franchise you watched as a kid. Stay till the end, because the last one is the one people refuse to believe. Spider-Man is the most recognizable superhero on the planet. 60 years of comics, cartoons, films, and games. But here's the thing about a character that old. 60 years of history means 60 years of decisions. Arguments in offices, scripts thrown in the trash, artists who walked away and never came back. Because he's so famous, most people only ever see the polished version. Nobody looks at what actually happened behind it. So, why is his history this messy? 2 reasons. 1. He was never supposed to be a big deal. He was created as a throwaway in a magazine that was already being cancelled. 2. Once he did matter, he became worth an enormous amount of money. And that's when the fights started. Over credit. Over ownership. Over who actually made him. Mystery 1. In 1962, Stan Lee pitched a teenage hero based on a spider. Publisher Martin Goodman shot it down. People hate spiders. A teenager can't headline a book. Nobody wants a superhero with personal problems. So Spider-Man got dumped into Amazing Fantasy issue 15, the final issue of an anthology already being cancelled. Here's the part people miss. Sales figures took months to come back. Goodman cancelled the title before the numbers arrived. Then, the moment he saw how well it sold, he gave Spider-Man his own series. In 2021, the finest known copy of that throwaway issue sold for $3.6 million, beating the record held by Superman's first appearance. Mystery 2. With great power comes great responsibility. Everyone knows it. And almost everyone will tell you Uncle Ben said it. He didn't. In the original 1962 story, Uncle Ben has 2 lines in the entire comic, and neither is that one. The famous words appear in the caption box of the final panel. It isn't dialogue. It's the narrator's closing thought. The earliest known instance of the line being attributed to Ben is from 1972 in a musical audio drama called Spiderman, a rockomic. The 2002 film cemented it permanently. The character everyone credits it to never actually said it. Mystery 3. Everyone knows Stan Lee. Far fewer know Steve Ditko, the artist who designed Spider-Man. Ditko gave us the version that stuck, the full-face mask that hides everything about who's underneath. The web pattern. Web shooters Peter builds himself because Ditko wanted him to be a genius. Then, in 1966, at the absolute peak of the book's popularity, Ditko quit. He walked out and never worked with Stan Lee again for the rest of his life. And here's the actual mystery. Nobody has ever confirmed why. The story you've heard is that they fought over the Green Goblin's identity. That version comes from Stan Lee, who said he wanted the Goblin to be Harry Osborn's father. But shortly before he died, Ditko contradicted that directly, saying Norman Osborn being the Goblin was one of the few things they actually agreed on. Lee said he couldn't remember why Ditko stopped speaking to him. 2 men, one of the biggest partnerships in comics, and neither could give the same answer. Ditko died in 2018. The real reason went with him. Mystery 4. 1973. The Amazing Spider-Man issue 121. The Green Goblin throws Gwen Stacy off a bridge. Spider-Man fires a web, catches her leg mid-fall, and pulls her back up. She's dead. And in the corner of that panel, right where the web catches her, there's a tiny sound effect printed. Snap. Readers noticed immediately. falling bodies don't just stop. If that web caught her at terminal velocity, the whiplash would break her neck. Meaning, the moment he tried to save her was the moment he killed her. The Goblin taunts him about exactly that on the next page. Now here's what almost nobody knows. Marvel answered this. Officially. In print. 4 issues later. On the letters page of issue 125, editor Roy Thomas wrote that the whiplash from Spidey's webbing stopping her so suddenly was, in fact, what killed her. It's not a fan theory. Marvel confirmed their own hero caused the death of his girlfriend, buried it in a letters column in 1973, and most readers have never seen it. And Jerry Conway, who put that snap in the panel, has said he isn't sure why he added it. Mystery 5. In 1985, Marvel optioned the film rights to Canon Films. There was one problem. They fundamentally misunderstood the character. Canon commissioned a treatment from Leslie Stevens, creator of The Outer Limits. In it, Peter Parker isn't bitten by a spider. A corporate scientist deliberately bombards him with radiation, and he transforms into a hairy, suicidal, 8-armed monster. That was going to be the Spider-Man movie. A body horror film about a man becoming a giant spider. Stan Lee pushed hard for a rewrite. Ted Newsom and John Brancato were brought in to write an actual Spider-Man story. But Canon was collapsing, and the project died after roughly $1.5 million. There's a second unmade version. In 1992, James Cameron wrote a treatment for an R-rated Spider-Man film, Electro and Sandman, a fight on top of the World Trade Center. Never made. But one of Cameron's ideas survived. In his version, the webbing came out of Peter's own body. 10 years later, the 2002 film used organic web shooters. And fans blamed Sam Raimi. Mystery 6. In 1978, Marvel licensed Spider-Man to the Japanese studio Toei. Toei kept the costume and almost nothing else. Peter Parker doesn't exist. The hero is a motorcycle racer named Takuya Yamashiro. There's no radioactive spider. He gets his powers from a dying alien from the planet Spider. He takes the alien's bracelet and gains control of its spacecraft, and that spacecraft transforms into a 60-meter-tall robot called Lepordon. This was not Toei's idea. The sponsor, Bandai, the toy company, demanded a giant robot be added to the show. So the origin of Spider-Man was rewritten around merchandising. It gets better. The Leopardon suit was stolen from the set partway through production. They never replaced it, so for the rest of the series they reused the same handful of shots. Now the part that actually matters. Super Sentai, the franchise later repackaged in the West as Power Rangers, already existed. But it did not have giant transforming mecha as a standard feature. Leopardon was so popular that Toei started putting giant robots into every Sentai series from then on. Which means the reason the Power Rangers have a Megazord traces back to a Japanese Spider-Man show. Because a toy company asked for a robot, a cancelled magazine nobody wanted. A famous line that was never spoken. A creator who took his reason with him. A death Marvel admitted their own hero caused. And a giant robot that quietly rewired children's television. 60 years of Spider-Man, and this is barely the surface. So if you learned even one thing you didn't know, hit subscribe.